So good evening, everyone. We are delighted to have you all for this webinar on COVID-19. This has been organized by Divine Magic Foundation and Critical Care Foundation for the benefit of all viewers. Critical Care Foundation has been founded by Dr. Narendra Rungta. Dr. Narendra Rungta, MD, FCCM, FICCM, FISCM, Chairman, National Joint Task Force of IMA and ISCCM to train medical professionals in handling hospitalized COVID patients. He's Chairman, Managing Trustee, Critical Care Foundation, Jaipur, past President, Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, Founder President, Association of SAARC Countries, Critical Care Societies, past Chairman of Intensive Care Chapter, IAP. Sir has trained over 10,000 doctors on COVID. I'm lucky to be one of his students. It is a privilege for Divine Magic Foundation, of which I am the co-founder, to conduct this webinar along with Dr. Rungta. Divine Magic Foundation works towards improving the health profile of women, children, and elderly by conducting health and medical camps. It also works towards spreading medical awareness amongst the general population through webinars and medical education among health professionals. The webinar today is aimed at clearing the misinformation and misunderstanding about COVID-19 in the general population. I hand over to Dr. Rungta for his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Payal, for a very lucid introduction. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this a very important webinar in the midst of almost a community spread of COVID-19 in our country. And all over the country, there are massive reports of infection spreading amongst people. And we are expecting to touch a figure of, I cannot call that the magic figure, unfortunate figure of a lakh or more patients being infected on daily basis anytime now. We have already crossed the figure of 95,000 and we are second amongst the world in numbers and deaths as well. God forbid we don't want to top the table, and therefore it is important that all of us keep on increasing our awareness how well we can protect ourselves and everybody around us. Thank you very much, Payal, once more, having taken the pain to organize this. At the same time, I also wish to thank Reena Patil, who has helped us in streaming this whole program across YouTube. Our staffers, Myrene and Sheetal, for helping us out. So the objectives of these webinars are to make you aware that how can you protect yourself from the infection today. That is protection today from the infection. And if you get infected, what you have to do. And most of the time we get a question, now what next that I am COVID positive? And almost all of us, including me and everybody present in this seminar and not present in the webinar, are thinking about what is the future protection of the population and how we will be all protected. There is a lot of discussion going about the diets which one should consume during this period, and we will try to clear a lot of your doubts and addressing your queries during the program. Quickly, I will run through in next 20-22 minutes a small summary of directions, information, clearing misinformation during next 22 minutes, and all of you would be free to seek answer, give us the questions which we will try to answer and address them. You all know that the virus is from Wuhan, China to India and to the rest of the world. And it is not only corona that we are getting from this country. This is much more. And surprisingly, in corona times, when the whole world is struggling to protect themselves, to protect their near and dear ones from the disease, there are a lot which are happening around. So COVID is, this is what it looks like, a shining corona, a crown-like appearance, and you see these are the receptors of COVID by which it attaches to the body cells. And now, why do we have respiratory symptoms from related to our lungs, to our breathing? Because COVID has affinity for lungs. Because there are a particular type of receptors, locations in the lungs, which are rich in ACE2 receptors, to which COVID virus has an affinity. And this virus, as you know, spreads by aerosol, which are small particles generated by sneezing or coughing, direct contact with the virus or a person or a substance which is already infected, and sometimes, which is controversial, possible airborne transmission. So this is, the virus finds its way into the lungs and where it induces its bad effects. The symptoms related to COVID are fever in almost all patients, and generally it is said that you cannot entertain a diagnosis of corona fever, COVID without fever. Then almost 3/4 of these patients have dry cough, half of them may have fatigue, sputum production, and at least 20% of them suffer from shortness of breath, muscle pain, and in that direction they may have sore throat, headache, chills, nausea, vomiting, nasal congestion, loss of taste and smell, and some patients may present with diarrhea alone. The good thing is the death rate in India is less than 2%. It varies from 1% to 2% depending upon areas, the age of the patient, which is much less than the rest of the world. But that is not one particular criteria to make us proud of. And then we understand there are various stages of COVID. This staging has been done to make you understand about how COVID progresses. You may have no COVID stage, then you may be COVID positive but without symptoms. And then the next stage, when you are COVID positive and mild symptomatic, there are mild symptoms, but you do not require oxygen or any other major complaint that you do not have, and therefore until the stage 3 where I have described here, you don't require hospitalization. Ultimately, it is stage 4 where the patient goes into requirement of oxygen. He becomes breathless, his oxygen goes low in his body, and it is there that the patient requires hospitalization, and such patients are less than 2.5% of all patients who are infected. And this we had said in March 2020, almost 6 months back, while we were training our doctors in the country and around India, that there will be an explosion in our country sooner or later, and all doctors and nurses in India, irrespective of specialty, should get ready to contribute. And therefore, all healthcare workers be updated about protocols, do's and don'ts in handling hospitalized patients. And those medical professionals who train themselves through this program or some other program, they are able to save themselves, and many of them, has succumbed to the infection. There is a lot of panic, confusion, and people are not sure about what is happening and what is going to happen. And there are lots of reasons for that. The top body in the world, the top organization in the world who regulates the health, gives directions to the countries, its rulers, governments around the world is World Health Organization. The role of WHO has itself come under scanner, and a lot of countries, including the top countries which supported WHO, have commented very badly about WHO. This will only spread confusion and panic amongst general people. Lot of never before, I say never before, information, misinformation, disinformation campaigns have been streaming both on social media and news media platforms. World's richest nations, both economically, scientifically, have been the worst hit and devastated, be it America, be it Europe, be it China, and now we see our own country and another largest populated countries like Brazil and South Africa and Russia, they are also getting badly hit. Wealth is mighty, the myth is broken, some Americans are quoted saying. So, richness has not prevented or protected people from getting infected and being killed with corona disease. It started in China in December 2019, and since then transparency about data coming from China is not free from suspicion that we all know, we are aware of. The data is scanty other than what has been published in scientific journals. Very little is coming through social media or print media. Significant discrepancies in the initial and follow-up reports are baffling. China is sitting pretty today while the whole world is struggling and become economically functional with vengeance. So it definitely raises suspicions, confusions, and a feeling of unsurety. There is none or minimal residual disease left in China according to the reports, what we are getting from the media, when the best medical scientists are predicting it to be lasting for few more months or even years, at least in rest of the world, unless we get a good effective vaccine very soon. But it's not all bad or worse. There is some good news too. Currently, though not all is still, everything is not known to us about COVID. Yet, the management of COVID is largely streamlined and protocolized now. And most of the world medical scientists agree on this protocol. Small changes in these protocols and systems will continue to occur with ongoing massive research worldwide, and India is a part of the whole research. This is a change that has been witnessed by a medical professional like me. The change during last 5 years or so since I have become a medical professional. Vaccine is in sight with almost 10 vaccines are into phase 3 trials in various parts of the world, including India. Some countries are moving towards herd immunity. Now, definitely you will raise the question, what is herd immunity and what is the criteria, how it is acquired? We generally say that when more than 50% of population in a society or a country acquire immunity to infectious disease with subclinical infection without manifestations of the disease, hospitalization or vaccination, that is called herd immunity. It appears from preliminary investigation that more than 25% population in India has acquired immunity. That's largely an estimate. I will not call it a guesswork, that's an estimate, rough estimate. If the presence of antibodies against COVID is an indicator. Sweden has refrained from large-scale lockdown since beginning and is expecting development of herd immunity. And there are reasons to believe that. How does corona spreads? Each sneeze and cough bout can produce as many as 3,000 droplets of a size of about 2 to 4 microns loaded with virus and can stay in air for several hours. These droplets can easily travel up to 3 feet or more and affect an individual in the range. Virus may survive on different surfaces where it settles down on wood 6 to 8 hours, floors several hours, steel 12 hours, glass and plastic several days, copper 4 to 6 hours, and probably for lesser time on more precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, etc. Though it has not been very well investigated, but it is generally expected that precious the metal or the surface, probably lesser is the stay of this virus. Now, what will protect you from the infection today if you are not infected? There are only 3 strategies, my friends. Wear a mask when you move out of the house. Maintain social distancing. What is social distancing? A distance from any other person of more than 2 meters. Wash with soap or sanitize your hands as frequently, as many times as possible, but definitely when you have handled a strange substance, a foreign substance, or you have been very, very close to a stranger. Wearing a mask reduces your contagion possibility remarkably. Look at this. If you are not wearing a mask, the contagion possibility is more than 70%. It comes down to less than 70%. And if it is from mask to mask contact with another person, the possibility is cut down to less than 2%. So a small effort, a small issue, no cost practically. A mask costs about 2.5 rupees. It is not a heavy thing to wear. Doctors are used to wear it almost 8 to 12 hours a day. So this provides you almost nearly 100% protection. Wear it please. And wear it well, the right way. You see, leaving your nose open, your chin not covered, partially leaking from sides, keep it hanging, leaving porosity between mask and nose is not the best thing to do. It is as good as not wearing a mask. So what is the right way? It should cover your nose very well like this in this picture, and it should cover your chin. The lower end of the mask, lower margin of the mask should cover the under surface of everybody's chin. So wearing mask the right way is very, very important. Now costlier is the better. That has been our understanding throughout our career and ages. This may not be so with N95 mask, which is costlier, costs about 150 rupees. This mask is recommended only for medical persons or with doctor's recommendation if there is a proven corona positive case in household quarantine. N95 mask has to be size fit for the user. It comes in different sizes for different facial size of the patient. If you are using a mask N95 and you have spent a lot of money, almost 150 rupees for this mask, and still it is not fitting you, it is as good as you are not wearing it. So it should be fitting mask for your face size. And N95 with this valve is not recommended because it protects only the one who wears it. It definitely does not protect other contacts who are exposed to the person who is wearing it. So this particular mask with valve is not recommended. So, little more about the mask. Currently, for all of us who are moving out of the house or office, double layer or dry waterproof surgical mask, what is recommended in routine. You may also use homemade cloth mask, personal hankies, thin napkins or thin towels. In case you do not want to buy a mask, that's okay. Water or saliva soaked mask should be disposed of immediately or replaced by another piece of cloth. Now, at the same time, while you are sanitizing your hands, protecting your face and nose and respiratory tract, it is very important that you sanitize and clean and disinfect the environment around you. And this has to be achieved with hospital grade disinfectant, which is made of 0.6% sodium hypochlorite solution or isopropyl alcohol not less than 70% to frequently touch surfaces or objects for appropriate contact time as indicated on the product's label. Hand sanitizers are also 70% isopropyl alcohol based solutions. My friends, I want to warn you that please make sure that you are having or buying an appropriate sanitizing solution, not a bad one, not a adulterated one, and not any solution which is being sold in the market in the name of sanitizing solution. Make sure that it is branded one, it contains alcohol which is isopropyl alcohol and not methyl alcohol, which percentage should be 70%. Methyl alcohol is toxic, kills, it may kill. So now coming to what next if you are COVID positive. Visit nearest healthcare center. You require hospitalization only if your SpO2, that we call it, your percentage of oxygen in your blood is less than 94% of room air, or if there is evidence of any other organ involvement like chest pain, reduction in urine output, abdominal distension, so on and so forth. If you don't have any of the above, confine to your house in isolation. All your contacts during last 10 to 14 days should be quarantined. Keep a good watch on your health, including SpO2, and sleep prone. That helps in conservation and better oxygen generation in your body. Therefore, sleeping prone is suggested for all COVID patients. Now, obviously, you will all raise what is quarantine, what is isolation, what is incubation period. Now, this is very easy to understand. Quarantine is isolation of healthy individuals who are not COVID positive for a prescribed duration on suspicion of possibility getting infected and potentially from infective to others after getting exposed to infection knowingly or unknowingly. The period in infection is specific. In corona, it is about 14 days. It differs from isolation in the sense isolation is done for a patient who is positive to particular disease, who is proven to be infected. So he should be separated. An incubation period is the time gap between the first day of infection to the appearance of symptoms of the disease, which usually is about 14 days in corona in maximum. It can be as short as 5 days, 6 days, but maximum the possibility of corona manifestation appearing after your exposure wanes immensely after 2 weeks. Should all in the family be tested? It is recommended. No, my friends, all family members who are exposed to a COVID positive family member does not have to undergo testing. It is recommended only if a contact is symptomatic. They all are recommended to observe quarantine for 2 weeks, which is mandatory for all of them. Now, there are certain battery of confidence building tests. I have observed in my own practice that most contacts want to undergo some tests, even the COVID tests, and make sure that they are COVID negative. However, there is no need. In many areas, it may not be possible to get a COVID test positive. It also costs about anywhere between 1500 to 2000 rupees. Therefore, you can save a lot of cost and problem, and small tests like CBC, where you have a reduction in lymphocytes, rise in lactic dehydrogenase, which is called LDH. If you have cardiac symptoms, get a cardiac troponin done, the level rises. A D-dimer test, a massive rise would indicate ongoing thrombosis, and CRP, which is C-reactive protein, more than 100 milligrams per cent, and HRCT chest, that is CT scan of the chest, gives earliest information even before anything has happened about if something is going wrong with your lungs. Any medicines at home if you are not hospitalized. There are no medicines recommended if you are COVID positive and don't need hospitalization. Paracetamol 500 to 650 milligram can be taken on need basis for fever and pain. Vitamins, zinc, etc. may be taken, but they are helpful in general and not specifically for COVID. Ayurvedic or homeopathic medicine should be taken with appropriate guidance and not on hearsay basis or suggestions on social media. Take a lot of liquids and light diet with fruits and green leafy vegetables. Avoid non-vegetarian food during these times. Stay home, stay isolated, keep your household away, always wear a mask, sleep prone, safely dispose of your sputum or secretion soaked napkins or hankies. Who are more vulnerable? Patients with cardiovascular disease, hypertension, obesity, diabetes, transplanted patients suffering from cancer or taking immunosuppressive medicines like corticosteroids or immunosuppressive drugs, and which are anti-cancer drugs. So they are more prone, or the aged elderly patients above 75-80, they are more prone to suffer from corona. Now, a lot of talk is going about people are expecting a vaccine, and lots of questions are asked on routine basis when the vaccine is going to come and why a vaccine is not coming. So a little bit about vaccine against COVID. There are many types of vaccines being prepared against COVID, but every vaccine before being launched has to undergo lots of trials, which are called phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, which is the ultimate trial. Phase 3 is the last trial. Now, I must tell you that there are at least 8 vaccines currently going into phase 3 trials. There are at least 3 vaccines into phase 3 trials, and there are at least 15 vaccines into phase 1. 3 Indian companies are working in collaboration with other companies internationally to launch a vaccine or develop India's own vaccine. Bharat Biotech is topping in the list. A vaccine cannot be prepared overnight or in 6 months or 1 year's time. It takes at an average 10 years time to develop one vaccine against a particular disease. But for COVID, time is running out, so the whole world is running very, very fast to develop, launch a vaccine which can protect human race. There are several stages which are, the 5 stages are typical. First is exploratory stage, if there is a possibility of a need of developing a vaccine, and this itself takes about 2 to 4 years. Clinical stage, where the substance or drug is tested in animals. It goes on for 1 to 2 years. Phase 1 is a human trial which is done on about selected 28 to 30 persons, and this phase goes on for 1 to 2 years, and observations are to be made on these persons very, very carefully. Phase 2 is a trial which is done on few hundred people. This again requires about 1 to 2 years to test the vaccine. Now phase 3 is again about 2 to 3 years. Here few thousand persons and not less than 60,000 persons, and these 60,000 persons or the whole population has to be divided into two. 50% go into control and 50% get vaccine. Who are controls? Which is not the vaccine, they are giving some other normal, say normal saline or water injections. And the outcome, development of antibodies, development of side effects, toxic effects, or any other disease, is they are monitored for several months and years. And this is what has happened in one of the vaccine, and people were very disappointed when a trial in phase 3 was halted world over. A trial which was much talked about, Oxford AstraZeneca corona vaccine trial, an Indian company, Serum Institute of India, was also involved with them. This was halted because a woman candidate, volunteer, developed spinal cord disease called transverse myelitis. This trial was halted in July after a patient showed signs of the same trial was also halted in July when a patient showed signs of multiple sclerosis, but it was later found to be of different etiology. Similarly, it is not necessary that the present volunteer has developed this particular disease only because of this particular vaccine. It may be because of any other reason. Still, the authorities will make sure that instead of protecting the patients, we do not want to give them a disease. So I think the trial will resume soon after finding out the cause or making some changes in the vaccine. Now the Russian vaccine, which was announced to be launched on August 11 by the Russian president, became the first country in the world to approve vaccine, which was called Sputnik 5 against COVID-19. He had given it to his daughter, and good amount of antibodies were found in her, and she remained healthy without any problems. However, the vaccine is still undergoing phase 3 trials, and we understand that India is negotiating with Russia for the same. There are lots of reports of sudden deaths in COVID patients. Naturally, a question is asked, why these sudden deaths occur? Yes, there have been significant number of such cases. However, most of such cases were during the initial COVID times when information and knowledge was scanty. It landed suddenly in Europe and then moved on to Americas, and it came late to our country. But there were lots of deaths reported on the roads, in cars, toilets, and after the patient was actually discharged from the hospital after initial stay of 1 or 2 days. Most deaths seem to be related to hypercoagulation state that develops in COVID patients, which means they are more prone to develop clots in blood. And that is how the disease starts in human being. All these patients become more prone to more clotting of blood. When such clotting goes on unchecked, it may occlude coronary arteries, leading to fatal heart attacks. They may go into brain arteries or blood vessels to induce brain attacks. Clots, if they become very large, may block circulation partly or completely, particularly in lungs. And this is called pulmonary embolism, and this has the potential to kill the patient in a matter of hours. Now, what medicines we will receive in hospitalized patients? This is again a question and a query and curiosity of everybody. Now that the whole world's medical scientists agree on particular protocol, by and large, there are a number of medicines which are found to be effective and only recommended and used in COVID patients. One and the foremost is low molecular weight heparin to check and treat thrombosis or clotting. Remdesivir, a drug which is given intravenously by injection, it reduces the viral load and severity of the disease and reduces hospital and ICU stay if it is started early on after hospitalization. It is not recommended for the patients staying home who are COVID positive. It is only recommended for hospitalized patients in mild to moderate patients who require oxygen. Oxygen is another drug which is recommended for every patient, hospitalized patient, in one or the other form to treat and meet out the oxygen deficit in these patients. Dexamethasone or equivalent any other corticosteroids, this is an anti-inflammatory drug. It checks up the reaction of the body to COVID virus. There may be lots of symptomatic and supportive medicines, and most important of them are, to control fever, pain, to make that patient sleeps well, does not have anxiety, does not suffer from delirium, bad dreams, or loneliness. Any other medicine, including plasma, are either for research purposes or they are ineffective. So I'm not going into details of all other drugs. I will talk about a little bit about plasma. I'm not going to talk about other drugs which are not found to be effective or they are limited for research purposes. There is a clear-cut guideline about when to start, how much and how long each medicine has to be given to the patient. Therefore, has to be no confusion. All patients, all families should be very confident that all hospitals, all doctors generally would practice the same unless there are specific reasons in a particular patient. I'll talk about plasma therapy a little bit because again this has been quite talked about in social media, in print media, electronic media, and it's a matter of discussion amongst medical professionals as well. Let me clarify this. This is approved only for use with prior approval for research purposes. It has been one of the major research strategies that have been used in COVID-19 convalescent plasma would include the donor needs to self-identify that he has suffered from COVID based on public awareness about a potential role for convalescent plasma. Clinician referral or who tests positive for SARS-CoV-2 infection or COVID infection through social media campaigns and formal news outlets. Following persons can donate plasma: those who have fully recovered from COVID-19 for at least 2 weeks. They have been healthy for at least 2 weeks without any symptoms. Same person can donate plasma repeatedly if plasma donation is possible by pheresis and when the whole blood is not donated. The individual most likely to produce high antibody titers are thought to be those who were the sickest. When the sickest of the COVID patients recover, probably theoretically they are the best candidates for plasma donations, because they are the ones who have generated the most robust immune responses against COVID. Although information is limited and titer cannot be inferred from clinical criteria, these plasma should meet certain criteria. The FDA, Food and Drug Agency, described emergency use authorization from August 2020 recommends a neutralizing antibody titer of more than 250. These units are labeled as high titer COVID-19 convalescent plasma and they should only be used. Low titer are used if high titers units are not available. And this was okay mostly before August. After August, low titer plasma transfusion is not recommended. And there are different types of assays which are available around the world. I don't need to go into details. There has to be a demonstrated safety and efficacy when used for a specific condition. However, current data suggests that against use of plasma in COVID patients in routine. So there is no clinical data to support use of plasma in COVID patients as on today. Therefore, friends, I will end up with a general advice to all of you and everyone. Stay home, stay safe, maintain social distancing of more than 2 meters. Don't touch surfaces and substances, objects unnecessarily. Frequent hand washing with soap and water or hand sanitizers. Soap and water is better than hand sanitizers. Use face mask when moving out. Sneeze or cough into tissue or handkerchiefs or elbow hollows if you do not carry one. If fever, take a lot of liquids and tablet paracetamol 500 to 650 milligram depending upon your body structure and weight. No antibiotic or preventive drugs are recommended in allopathy. Eat fresh vegetarian food. Do not heed to rumors, misinformation, disinformation, or unconfirmed information on any channel or from anybody. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for patient hearing. I know I have not dwelt with everything that you might have been looking for, but there are always some time constraints, and we will be happy to take your questions and address them if you have any. Over to Payal. Thank you. Myrin, can you unmute Dr. Payal? Myrin, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Payal, you can unmute yourself.
It was a wonderful presentation, sir, in a very simplified form. I hope it helps all our viewers. Now, I prepared slides with few common questions which generally patients ask. So, allow me to share my presentations. So for all the viewers, I have prepared few common questions which generally all the patients ask about coronavirus. We are very lucky to have Dr. Rungta with us who will answer our queries. So the yesterday's data about COVID-19 is globally as of 10:28 p.m. CEST, 10 September 2020, there have been 27,688,740 confirmed cases of COVID-19, including 899,315 deaths reported at World Health Organization. So how does one get COVID-19 infection?
So I think this is the commonest question, Payal, and I have already answered this in my slide. Mostly infection takes place by contact. Direct contact is the most common method. You shake hands, you touch objects, you pick up objects, you handle patients. And the next common one, or say equally important, is droplet infection. As I had showed, each bout of sneeze or cough produces almost 3,000 of such droplets. And this estimate is a very, very rough one. And if these droplets are able to find your facial area, your hands, and they settle down on any of the objects that we have described, and if the patient indulges in handling them or inhales these droplets, airborne infection is a little controversial, yes and no, but we should always take it that airborne infection is possible. Airborne infection is that the virus stays in air after being discharged from the breath in cough or from sneezing, by sneezing. So these are the ways and means of transmission of infection.
How do I protect myself from COVID-19?
Mask, use of mask, social distancing, effective sanitization, washing your hands, do away with, sanitize your environment, don't touch objects unnecessarily, don't come into contact with COVID positive patients. Very simple.
So do steps of hand washing with soap, like do we have to do this every time for these 8 steps? And with the sanitizer also, because usually people will take just 1 or 2 drops of sanitizer and just use it. So is that the correct way of using a sanitizer?
This is a very good question, while I must say that every individual, when he is washing with soap and water, he must do so for at least 2 minutes and make sure that he has cleaned his web spaces between the fingers. He has cleaned the tip of every finger. He has cleaned his wrist as well. So as far as possible, the lower part of the lower arm or say forearm, that should be washed, and this time is about 2. Thumb. Yes, I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so the question is that how much amount of sanitizer, because usually when we go to shops or malls, they always keep a bottle of sanitizer and they'll give only 1 drop, or
No,
we have to push with the hand.
that's nothing. That does not help. It should be palm full, handful of sanitizing solution. So it should be able to it should be good enough to wash your both the surfaces of your hands, web spaces between your fingers and thumbs, the wrist, etc., etc. Everything should be, and classically it should be, handful of sanitizing solution.
Okay. And so some patients they develop some reaction also, like skin peeling and all those with use of sanitizers. So what we should recommend for them?
So there are non-alcohol containing sanitizing solutions. They can use those and keep such solutions with them, or then use soap and water. That is what is recommended for them.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So moving on to next, sir, mask protection. So which will be the best mask for routine use? And in your presentation, you said, sir, once it is soiled or wet, we have to remove it. But
Yes.
once we start using a mask, for how long can we use it? Like
8
2 hours,
hours.
3 hours,
8 hours.
8 hours. Okay.
It's the optimum time we have to discard a mask after 8 hours use, because after 8 hours we generate enough water with our breath that we exhale,
Okay.
and we sneeze, we have our salivary secretions. The effectivity of the mask will be compromised in about 8 hours. And if we are not sure about the validity of the mask before that, it should be replaced.
Okay. And I'd seen one patient who had developed contact dermatitis, sir, with the use of mask.
This is possible because the masks are made of various materials. To such situations, when you are millions of people are wearing masks at a time, there is a possibility that one individual may develop allergic reaction.
So this you have already explained well to us, sir, how to wear a mask and use it. Moving on to the next slide. Social distancing.
So this is a beautiful depiction of social distancing by you, Payal. And this is self-explanatory. I don't have to talk about it. And this is particularly applicable to schools, meetings, gatherings, markets, malls, etc., etc.
Now in hospitals, we use face shield also, sir, in OPD. So should we use face mask, face shield, or both? Or while going to bank?
Face shield does not provide any additional protection, and it cannot be worn for more than 25-30 minutes at a time. It is very inconvenient, and so this is recommended only for short period of a time when you cannot observe social distancing for some or the other reason. Like when you are flying,
Okay.
when you are in a bus, probably that is the time you can use a face shield as well. But it is not convenient at all to wear a face shield.
So here we use it in OPD and as well as in OT also, sir.
So this is okay if you tolerate it, but more than that, it will be very useful to create a screen,
Okay.
acrylic screen between the patient and the doctor, and the interaction can take place by, as we do routinely, by a mic and sound system.
Okay. And so some people here, they use it in shops also and security guards because they come in contact with a lot of people. So they also use. So is it recommended?
No, that is not recommended. Social distancing is the answer to this. And these face shields are maintained very shabbily. They are not cleaned, they are not sanitized, and they may be leaking here and there. Holes are found into these shields because they are costly. So they do not replace it early on when it is needed. So face shields are recommended only for those who understand the validity of these face shields, how well they should maintain it, and if the particular face shield, and they should be loose, because they fit onto the forehead, and it should not be very, very tight.
Okay. What should I eat to prevent infection and increase immunity?
This is a very interesting and common question, and your slide is full of that. So you can show this slide. I have generally recommended avoid non-vegetarian food, encourage fruits, particularly the citrus ones, green leafy vegetables, a gentle light diet which does not burden your stomach, and you don't carry a lot of weight. All other things are related to Ayurveda and yoga. I generally understand they are very, very good. I myself practice yoga, so I have no hesitation in recommending yoga, pranayam in particular, and everybody should devote about 25 to 30 minutes to yoga every day, particularly related to the respiratory tract. Pranayam is one of the best exercise one can undergo. Fortunately for Indian population, the tradition and convention of using spices is the one way of protecting the population at large from infections and furies of microbes like COVID. Most of these spices are protective in nature.
So when should one get tested?
When you are symptomatic
Okay.
or for research purposes. The answer is very, very simple.
Okay. This is the most common question I come across, sir. Because
So
if one patient is tested positive, the people who are working outside in office, the people at home, everybody wants to get tested, and in the nearby vicinity. So even if I say no, they don't get it. They just want to make sure that they are not COVID positive.
So that is absolutely not needed. And people are little fear struck when they are exposed. But if they are asymptomatic, if they do not develop symptoms, so they are as good as protected. And even if they are going to be positive, they just have to observe quarantine or isolation. So if they feel that they have been exposed to infection of a COVID positive patient, they should quarantine themselves. So there is no need for tests. They will save a lot of money, about 2,200, and stay home, and appearance of symptom, particularly fever. Don't entertain the idea of getting COVID infection or fear of getting COVID infection if you do not have fever or cough, particularly fever. Fever is an absolute requirement for diagnosis or suspicion of COVID.
And so very few patients will have high fever. Usually the patients which I get, they have very low fever, less than 100. They'll keep checking with thermometer, and they'll say it doesn't even cross 100. But they are so like full of fear of getting corona infection.
So sustained fever or intermittent fever for a number of days is a good reason to suspect. And then you can, do preliminary tests initially, and evidence of lymphopenia, lymphocyte count of less than 20%, or raised CRP. These two things will give you a lot of idea if your patient has a possibility of suffering from. And that is what I do in my practice. And if you have any possible respiratory symptoms, breathlessness, which may sometimes be out of anxiety, then a CT scan chest is what you need.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next question, which type of test should one undertake?
RT-PCR, reverse transcriptase PCR, polymerase chain reaction test. That is the standard test. That should be done. It takes about 8 hours. And after 8 hours, you can know the report. So that will give you a fair idea. And now there is a possibility of false negative test. And the incidence of false negativity is almost as high as 30 to 35%. But if it is positive, possibility of false positivity is very, very rare. A positive in all probabilities is positive.
It's positive. Okay. I was tested positive. What next?
So that was one of my objectives to tell everybody, and I have described in no uncertain words that visit the nearest health centers, check your oxygen saturation, do some preliminary tests, come back home if you are all right with oxygen, stay home, get yourself isolated. Hello. Yes, Amrish. Hello. I am in webinar. Yes.
So moving on to next question, sir. Are sanitization solutions and tunnels really effective?
They should be banned. They are not effective, and initial excitement about organizing these tunnels have led to a lot of problems. A lot of patients have suffered because of these sanitizing tunnels alone, and gives a false feeling of being protected. So should be banned.
Now, this is one of the most important questions, sir. How to manage anxiety and depression during COVID-19?
There is so much of fear, panic, and paranoia going around the world that anxiety, depression is inevitable. But it does not require any drug treatment. There are reports of increased suicidal incidents around the world after COVID. Some patients suffering from COVID have committed suicides because they go into depression and become schizophrenic temporarily. But that is very rare. Therefore, generally keep a positive mood, stay positive, do yoga. That's what I understand. There is no drug or medicine or medical advice which I can directly give or suggest which will protect you from anxiety or depression. Develop some hobbies which give you positive energy. Gardening is one, reading is another, participating in music is maybe another. That's it.
Okay. And this is the most awaited questions. When will the pandemic end and when will the vaccine come? These two questions.
I will say that vaccine is in sight, and a lot of criteria have been relaxed by almost all governments for an early launch of vaccine. And we getting at least 8-9 vaccines into phase 3 within 6 months of inflection of countries outside China, say after Feb. This is a huge work done by medical scientists around the world. The responsibility is immense, huge. They have to ensure that it is safe, it protects, it is affordable, and a mass production of such a drug is possible for the whole population of the world. Therefore, but the vaccine is coming. Now, most of us will not be ready to act as volunteers for these vaccines We talk about vaccines, but we don't want to be volunteers. So getting volunteers is also a huge problem for phase 3 trials. But nevertheless, at least 2 vaccines are into advanced stage. One is Russian vaccine, another is Moderna vaccine. China also have claims of producing an effective vaccine, but no one is sure about what they have to say. Unless it comes into market, it is very well tried in a particular population. So vaccine is coming by year end. We should have the first vaccine landing into our country. So, and pandemic is going to stay for some time unless there is development of herd immunity or good protection by the vaccine.
Okay. And sir, how safe it is to travel by air? If I want to go to my mom's place in Varanasi, can I travel?
Not traveling is the best option.
Okay.
Not flying is the best option because you have no controls. You can only discipline yourself. You can not discipline any other person. So you just have to weigh the risk benefit ratio and then take a thought out decision.
Okay. So
My general advice will be stay home.
Okay.
Travel only if you, for sure you have to. It is absolutely unavoidable.
Okay. So I would like to end here, sir, with our Honorable Prime Minister's message. Take care of elderly, practice social distance, follow Ayush, and download Arogya Setu app. Look after the needy, don't fire people, and respect COVID-19.
So, do we have questions from participants?
Reena, can you unmute yourself and let us know if there are any questions from the participants?
Myrin, can you unmute Reena?
She can do that herself.
Reena, you can. There is a question from Shan Payal. Can you have a second infection if you have a mild or severe ones? This is again a multi-million-dollar question. And second infections have been reported. But my view about it is probably when they were declared COVID negative, those might have been false negative COVID tests. And therefore, they continue to harbor significant amount of viral load and had some remission and only to relapse again. And if this relapse occurs within, say, few weeks, usually less than a month of the original infection, then probably it should not be called reinfection. But nevertheless, nobody is sure, but cases of reinfection after few months also have been reported. So the whole thing is a matter of investigation and research.
Okay. Reena, are there any other questions from audience?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, not in YouTube, but here we have question from Mr. Vishwendra that in COVID in asthmatic patients, are they in high risk group?
Yes, bad symptomatic COPD patients are in high risk group. Any chronic lung disease will make them more prone to infections. Myrin, please mute everybody else.
Sir, and question from Dr. Jyoti Khare. She wants, clarity on role of tocilizumab.
It has got no role of late. There is enough data now available that tocilizumab does not have any role, does not help patients of COVID. Initial reports of it to be a magic drug once you suspect cytokine storm. Now they have been thrown through the dustbins, and now there is a very clear-cut suggestion that no immunomodulators help. So a no to tocilizumab or similar drugs.
So then we have another question from Dr. Dua.
We cannot hear you.
Said question from Dr. Dua, who says, what's time needed for getting infection in distance of less than 2 meters?
No, your voice is not reaching us.
Question from Dr. Dua. What's time needed for getting infection in distance less than 2 meters?
No, time of getting infection.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. When distance is less than 2 meters.
If
We said social distancing of 2 meters, sir. Where if the social distancing it is less than 2 meters, then in how much time we can get infection? That's the question.
No, that's a hypothetical question. Now, it is not certain that you will get infection. You are prone to get infected, but the risk is high of getting infection. The frequency is high. The time is the same. It does not make any change in time. It only increases the risk of getting infected.
So there is one more question from Dr. Mohammad Bahar. He says we notice more severe COVID disease in non-smoker compared to smoker, especially in young age group. Against any explanation, sir, any take on this?
No. This may be one observation. This is not a general observation, and this does not support the data that is available. Smokers and alcoholics are definitely more prone to COVID.
Sir, one more question from Dr. Priyanka Jain. What is the importance of sleeping in prone position?
You know, the anatomy of lungs and blood circulation distribution is such that the dorsal part of the lung, which is most inflicted in COVID, a better circulation and better transfer of oxygen from lungs to the blood is possible. Better ventilation is possible, and what we call as VQ mismatch is least in prone position. And therefore it reduces the shunt, which is responsible for reduction in oxygen saturation.
So Dr. Neha wants to know, what about pregnancy and COVID, fetal transmission? I am an anesthetist working as assistant professor in medical college. 20 weeks pregnant. Should I resume work?
Yes, you should resume work with the usual precautions that every doctor should. And a pregnant woman is as exposed as any other doctor or a medical professional. Pregnancy per se does not make you more prone to COVID infection.
So can I answer this question?
Maternal, yes. We have a gynecologist here. Yeah. Yes. I forgot. Sorry.
No, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
So pregnancy as per se, it will not cause any harm, and your baby will never get infected. So don't worry about it. There are very, very few cases reported. And you can breastfeed also the baby. If you go to my YouTube channel, last week only we had one webinar. So about pregnancy and COVID for patients. So it will answer all your questions. Any other question, Reena?
Yes. Dr. Shine wants to ask, in case a vaccine doesn't come soon, will all of us have to take one some time or the other?
Again, that's an hypothetical question. I am of the opinion that we will get a subclinical infection and develop herd immunity. So I am a positive minded person. So we will not get a disease, yet get a natural protection.
So next question is from Sir J.K. Singh. Lot of N95 masks are available in the market. How to decide which one to buy and how to check authenticity of it?
Use the simple surgical, double-layered surgical mask which is available in the market with every chemist, in every hospital, every clinic. The green or the blue colored or sometimes even the white colored. Use that. It costs less than 2 rupees if you buy in bulk. Use and throw. So there are no rocket science about testing the mask. And even if it is not, there is no way to test effectivity of mask. Either you get COVID or you don't get COVID. So if you get COVID, the mask was not good, but a protection is provided by even by a piece of cloth.
Any other question, Reena? Unmute yourself. You're muted. Myron, unmute Reena.
No.
Yeah, ma'am, sir, one more question. Sir, when to use methylpred and when to use dexamethasone?
No, they are corollary of each other. One can be used in place of another. Equivalent doses are to be used, but whatever research has been done and recommendation are available are with dexamethasone. So there is, any steroid can be used.
Sir, next question. According to you, relapse can occur in how many weeks or months?
No, we are still not sure whether it is relapse or continuation of the previous disease, which was partly treated. Myron, some people are murmuring. Can we mute them?
Sir, is coming from Reena's background itself. Sorry to know that. Sorry to tell you that.
All right. Reena will control that anyway. Yeah. Yeah, Reena, please go ahead. So we have to make sure that it is because of it is a relapse. It may be continuation of the infection, which has gone dormant for a short period of time, only to become active because of variety of reasons. And the disease and infection has been for such a short duration, and the whole medical community and scientific community has been involved in care of the patient rather than more research. And a lot of people have succumbed while indulging with COVID patients. So only time will tell us. This question cannot be answered very satisfactorily.
Sir, next question. Is allergic rhinitis a risk factor?
Any chronic disease involving the respiratory tract is definitely a little bit of risk factor, because the health of the respiratory tract will be compromised, the cilia will be compromised, the airways will be compromised, and it will be easier for the coronavirus to attack and attach itself to the receptors which are in abundance in the respiratory tract.
The next question, what are the early symptoms of cytokine storm?
Fever hikes is one of the commonest issue associated with cytokine storm. and in the investigation, an abrupt vertical rise in CRP or interleukin 6. These two should be looked into if you are suspecting a cytokine storm in a patient who deteriorates suddenly over a period of few hours after initial recovery.
So the next question say vaccine doesn't come soon. Will herd immunity help, or we all need to catch an infection one day or other,
So
asymptomatic or otherwise?
this question I have already answered. There was a similar question, so it will be a repetition.
Sir, can you give please us the guidelines for the use of steroids and LMWH?
No, this is a medical question, and we will answer that in a separate. We are talking to general people, common public, so we shouldn't be talking about, medical things here. We can answer it in a separate. They can put this question on the group. We'll answer it there.
Sir, last question. Is allergic rhinitis patient at high risk if he keeps, wearing mask? Because there is lot of secretion during...
Mask will definitely protect him. So it's a shield against infection. So he is very well protected. So he is unlikely, the chance of his getting infected is less than 1%.
Okay,
All right.
over, sir. No more questions by the audience. Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful and presentation and very, very simplified, I must say. And it has answered almost all questions.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much, both of you, Myrene, Reena in particular, because she is a guest helper.
Yes.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Myrene.
Welcome, sir.
And thank you, thanks to everyone who has participated and joined us. So I have enjoyed this program. Thank you very much.